Good morning. This is Erin with the Department of Medicaid. It's not quite 10 o'clock and we're still clearing out the waiting room. So we'll give it just a second before we get started.
Hi, Erin. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can.
Thank you.
Okay, it is 10 o'clock. I did want to give a quick reminder for the court reporter. When you speak, especially the first time, please make sure to remember to introduce yourself for the record. And that helps the reporter make sure that they're capturing everything. Okay, I will turn it over to you, Rick.
Thank you. Thank you, Erin. Welcome, everyone. My name is Rick Chrisman. I am the TAC chair. Erin, do we have a quorum?
Sorry, I couldn't find my mute button. 1, 2, 3, 4. I count 4. So
Okay.
yes, sir, you should.
Okay, thank you. Do we not have to approve the April minutes as well?
My records show that the only minutes you have left to approve currently are your August minutes. Kelly, do you show that in your records as well?
I will go back and look and make absolutely sure in just a second.
Thank you.
Well, I see I put October in the agenda, so that should be August.
This is Kelly. I show that the minutes from the April meeting, hang on. Yeah, I show that they were approved in the June.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve the August minutes. Can I hear a motion?
I'll make the motion, Rick.
Thank you. And is there a second?
Johnny Caleb's from Commonwealth Council on Developmental Disabilities. I'll second.
Thank you, Johnny. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. That motion carried. Okay, I attended the September 28th MAC meeting. Among the things that were discussed, there was quite a bit of time spent on trying to determine whether there's certain regions that have a shortage of various healthcare providers. There was presented some data comparing the various regions against the national average. A lot of discussion as to whether that was accurate or not, or helpful. We also know that with the Medicaid wind down, the number of members has gone from approximately 1,740,000 to 1,640,000. And so that's a reduction of about 100,000 people. There was one of the members, Mr. Wright, expressed some concern about the reduction of PDS hours in the waiver. And another important development was Sheila Schuster has been elected to be the chair of the MAC, and Sheila has been for many years chaired the Behavioral Health TAC, and from time to time has expressed concern about the waiting list for Michelle P. and SCL, so I think she'll be a great addition. Let's see, next on the agenda is the Appendix K timeline, submission of required amendments, permanency of some provisions. Amy, are you on the call? she submitted that as a concern. Is there anything to report on that? Is Pam on the call?
Hey, Rick, yeah, Pam, this is Pam with Medicaid. So those have been the webinar, the recording, as well as the deck are out on the website for anybody that did not get to attend the 925 session on Appendix K. All 6 waivers are out for public comment right now until they went out on 9/27. They will remain out for public comment on until October 27th. We've have received, I know the last count that I saw, we were in the 50s for public comment, but I actually am out this week and just joined for this meeting, so I haven't seen what the count was
Okay.
for this week, but we have been getting very good feedback. So I would encourage anybody, if you weren't able to attend the 925 meeting about Appendix K, to go listen to that recording and look at that deck. But they will stay, all 6 waivers will remain out for public comment until the 27th, and we have to have them submitted to CMS by November the 11th.
Thank you. That was a very helpful webinar. Do we have any information about the number of SEL participants who are currently been involuntarily terminated?
I do. So since January 1st of 2023, 82 individuals have been involuntarily terminated from a service in SCL. Of those 82, 47 of them are still being served by the current organization. But I want to add to that, some of them are being served successfully. Like, we're not seeing any additional incident reports. We're not seeing additional concerns. And then prior to, and I don't have the date that this goes back to, I need to check with Elizabeth with BDID, but there were 96. So we had 14 additional terminations that were prior to 2023, but I don't have what date that goes back, that went back to.
Would you think that those 14, that many of them are being served now with a provider other than the one that terminated them?
I would believe so. Now, all I have right now is what I have is the numbers, but yeah, I mean, since we're at about a little over 50% have been transitioned either to a different provider, or some of them have went to a different waiver, or have went to we saw some that were in residential that have went to where they're living with a family member, or living in a different situation outside of residential. So I would believe that those 14, I think, have already transitioned over, or they would be included in that total 47. So that is 47 total of all of the terminations that are served by, regardless of the date they were terminated. Those are the ones that are still being served by that provider.
Pam, why were they involuntary taken off the list?
It varies. So they were, so sometimes it is a lot of times it's behaviors, and they are not able. So the provider finds themselves in a way that they're not able to adequately serve the individual and to meet all of their needs. We frequently see, and a lot of times this happens with new providers, that they say, you know, they take on individuals, and maybe they're not the best fit to serve them. So a lot of times it's related to behaviors, or it's you know, sometimes we see, not so much in this population, more in the brain injury population, where we see, you know, the individuals are and I guess this goes along with behaviors, but maybe they're disrupting the house. So I mean, because they have to consider the other individuals that are living in that house as well, in that environment, because, you know, it's not fair for you know, 2 other individuals or 3 other individuals to feel unsafe living in their own home. So there's a lot that goes into that before someone is involuntarily terminated.
Thank you.
of these 82 people, that represented like how many organizations would you estimate?
I do not, honestly, Rick, I do not have how many unique providers that is. That's something I can go back to Elizabeth and Crystal and see if I can get, if you all want to add that to the agenda for
Okay.
the next TAC, that we can go back and I can get how many unique organizations that the 82 that represents.
You may not have this information, but of the 47 people we're talking about now, are there any that's over 6 months?
I don't have that. If you want to add that to the agenda for the next one, I can get some additional information.
Would that be helpful for us, members, TAC members, to know these things?
I think
Yeah.
so, Rick. It would give us a feeling of whether or not it's a problem across the board or if there's just a certain handful of providers or whatever.
Right. And would you say that if it's over 6 months, that's sort of a chronic for that individual? It's a problem, a serious problem if it's more than 6 months? Or a year, or what should we ask?
It honestly is up to you all.
Well,
What
I'm asking the group here.
okay.
Does anyone have a suggestion?
I think 6 months is a good window.
Okay. All right. We talked about the exhaustion of ARPA funds. Are you any closer to a date on what you would estimate the ARPA
No.
funds would exhaust?
We're in the process of our first, of reporting that what we have used right now through the mass adjustments and what has been billed so far. And I don't have the dates on that yet, as we are currently still in the process of doing the analysis of how much has been spent so far with both the adjustments and the current billing.
But that's something we'll be working on, correct?
Yeah, correct. We have to report that quarterly, and we're coming up on a reporting date with CMS. So we have to report that in 2 ways, those expenditures in 2 ways to CMS, both through our routine financial reporting and through our reporting, our quarterly reporting that we have to do with our spending plan. So we do have to report that to CMS.
Thank you. And it's my understanding from our last discussion that when they do exhaust, that it's the intent of the General Assembly to make that up with state general funds until July 1st, 2024.
That was the language that was in the budget bill, that it was the intent for them to continue funding.
Okay, thank you. It was mentioned that you were going to submit to the governor's office basically the budget on waiver design, rate study, and slots. Is there anything you can tell us about that submission?
There's not anything that I can share, but we do, every year that's part of the submission that we include, the request for slots, the budget requests. So those have been, we've been working with our financial departments, and so there's not really anything that I can share on those submissions other than we did request slots. We requested, the funding based on the outcome of the rate study.
That was included in the budget, the rate
That
study.
was included in what was submitted. Yes.
Do you think the waiver redesign will involve extra appropriations?
I can't really answer that, Rick. It'll be up to the people much higher than myself to decide what we are funded.
But you've analyzed that, correct? When do you think we'll see like the waiver redesign for public comment?
So as far as the waivers themselves.
Well, no,
or-
the redesign that we've been working on, for a while, that would require a public notice, right?
What any changes that are written into the waivers or that are into the regulations, yes. So if there are, for example, the children's feasibility study, the end of this year, there will be information coming out about that. We've been working on the 1915I SMI state plan amendment. There'll be information coming out about those. But as far as official public comment, it is when we amend the waivers and amend the regulations. But we continue to work on and share information about what we're doing as far as the any changes that we're making to the regulations or to the waivers.
Well, I guess the changes that you've been working on specifically have been on that the waivers would be more consolidated, or they would be more there would be more consistency between Michelle P. and SEL. Is that correct?
So the focus of the waivers and the changes that were made for what is out for public comment right now are based on Appendix K. We
Right.
have to get through. We cannot make any significant changes right now while we're using the ARPA funds because of the maintenance of effort, and we can't. So, for example, there can't be any services changed. There are some things in the waiver that, for example, in Michelle P, there are some services that were just copied over from SCL, but they never were funded or never have been utilized. We can't change those right now because that would violate the maintenance of effort. And so we can't do that while we are accessing the ARPA funds. So right now, the changes that you are going to see with the waivers are what is out there for public comment and what we covered in the webinar on the 25th.
On Appendix K. So it'll be, well, I guess goes back to when the ARPA funds exhaust, but well, let me ask you this. Are you still anticipating some proposals, some changes after the ARPA funds exhaust regarding more consistency and the types of units, numbers of units that you'll be proposing?
We will be looking at all of that. We will be looking at cleaning up the services, for example, that are there that are not used, that were, to be honest, a copy and paste error for at some point when somebody did the Michelle P waiver. So yes, we will be looking at those things, but that cannot be done until after the exhaustion of the ARPA funds.
So probably sometime in 2024, likely.
Can't really predict that, but likely, yes, it will begin in 2024.
Okay. Any other questions on that? What do we have on waiting lists?
Okay, so for Michelle P, we are at 8,618. We still stay at about that 70% mark that are under 21. But some additional information that I have is that 25% of those individuals are Medicaid eligible, which means they could be accessing any of those state plan, or they may be covered by, and most likely are covered by, an MCO, but they could be getting behavior services, therapies. They have access to services. 25% of them are on the wait list for Michelle P, but they're receiving services in another waiver. And 5% are on the wait list and they're in the process of starting services with another waiver. So they have not, they haven't got an authorization yet, but will be getting one. So of the 8,618, 55% of them have access to either services in another waiver or services through state plan. For SCL, there are 3,326 individuals. No one is on the emergency wait list. We have 80 on urgent, 3,246 on future planning. Similar to what I gave with Michelle P. So 26% of the individuals on the wait list are Medicaid eligible, so they have access to services. 59% are waitlisted, but they're receiving services in another waiver. And 3% are in the process. They're waitlisted, but they are in the process of receiving an authorization for services in another waiver. So 88% of the individuals on the wait list either are getting services through another waiver while they're waitlisted, or they have access to other Medicaid services through either MCO or state plan.
Okay, so MCOs are required to provide some of the services that they would otherwise get through a waiver.
They're required, it would be the state plan services. So therapies,
Right.
behaviors, any services that are medically necessary. It would be the same thing as for those that are on fee for service or regular Medicaid. They would have access to those, as well as any other services that the MCO may offer that state plan does not.
Right, and it would be incumbent then upon the provider to become approved to provide general Medicaid services, right? Not
Well, these
wait.
would be state plan, these would be providers, yes, that are enrolled as state plan providers.
Okay. Maybe I don't understand this. So is there difference between state plan providers and providers to MCOs?
So for an MCO, they would have to be contracted and enrolled with that specific MCO.
Right.
For state plan, it's just, that's your regular general Medicaid.
And that would be reimbursed directly by the state.
Yes, and the
If it's state
MCO
plan.
would be billed through the MCO that
Okay.
that the individual is enrolled in.
Is there any other items that anyone on the call here would like to discuss? If not, when is our next meeting, Aaron? November?
Sorry, give me 1 second. It is. Oh, I'm in the wrong month. That's why I can't find it.
December.
December 5th.
December 5th. Okay. Unless there is any other comments, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.